motivation for achievement that they do. So as a manager, if you're a manager of a team and you have a high need for achievement, you would expect that, okay, I'm putting in so much work and I'm getting things done. So the other people in the team should have the same level of motivation for achievement, and they should be putting their work as well.
Yes, would you agree, Anu? Secondary is achievement?
Yes, I agree with that. Because all he cares about is getting the job done and getting accolades from the boss, possibly.
Yes, that's
so that
right.
would be the second achievement. Yes, I agree.
So let's look at this. Affiliation doesn't seem to come into it, does it? Did he mention his team at all? No. But what's happening with his team?
They're taking sick days, either genuinely or not.
Yeah, exactly. Is he looking after his team?
Doesn't appear to be.
No.
Not effectively, anyway.
Yeah. So when, Anna, you come to trying to decide whether it's achievement or affiliation, does that tell you it's not affiliation as his secondary motivation?
Yeah.
Okay. So he's not at all looking after the people. He's getting on with tasks. He's into his power, being, wanting the esteem of being a manager, but certainly not looking after his team. So what motivational methods do you think is he using with his team? Any thoughts, Anna? Is he using any motivational methods with his team? How about you? Yeah, Anna? Can you? Okay. Farah?
Actually, he's using negative reinforcement.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's extrinsic and it's negative reinforcement. So it's not really motivation.
That's right. It's not motivation at all. It's really turn off. So no wonder his team are going on sick leave, right? How well do you think he knows his team members, Farah?
So the kind of actions that he's taking, it seems like he does not have any kind of, not like a very healthy relationship with his team members. So so I think he doesn't know them well at all.
Yeah. So you would imagine he doesn't know his team members well, but as a coach, we get lots of insights like this, but they're only our assumptions until we test them out, right? So you go on a hunch or your insight, and you would ask him, well, how are your team members? How come they're sick all the time? Who are they? Tell me a bit more about them. What do they do? How well do you know them? Do you socialise with them? Okay. So everything that the client says to you is grist for you to take up and start to have a conversation with them about what they're doing and what they might do differently. Okay. So at the moment he's with the manager. The manager's asking him to explain what's happening with his team. So let's go on a little bit further. So here we are, getting ready for change. Okay. Now the Kubler-Ross change cycle, the emotions of change: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance, and moving on. Now he's probably not in any of those stages at the moment, because he probably isn't thinking, well, he might be a bit depressed not having got his promotions, but he's not probably thinking about doing anything different. I imagine he's just at a point where he doesn't know what to do, maybe. Okay. And when we looked at this aspect in the workbook, we see there are 5 stages of readiness for people to get ready to change: pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, and then maintenance. So as a coach, we've looked at the fact that you've got to believe in yourself, first of all. You've got to believe you can change and make the changes. And that comes from us using a combination, or at least one of these mastery experiences: social modelling, social persuasion, or psychological responses. So that's how, as a coach, we use their belief in themselves to say, I can change, I've done it before, and I can do it again. Or to model some social, from some other manager who's managing their team better. Or by saying to him, look, I know you can do it, that's social persuasion, I believe in you, and I know that you're going to get there. Or just a simple psychological response of, what's going to happen if you don't make the grade? Where are you going to be in 5, 10 years' time? Any thoughts about those change processes or activities before we move on? Okay, so let's keep on looking at Evan. Now, his wife notices his behaviour has changed lately. He's become very quiet, even withdrawn, you might say. He tells her what's going on and she suggests he speak with his best mate, Lyle. Lyle recommends Evan see a coach who has helped him so much with his work situation and life in general. Lyle sends Evan the contact details. Evan is undecided as to whether he should make a call and arrange an appointment or not. So, what stage of readiness for change is Evan? And there's our stages: pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, or maintenance. Where do you think he is, Anna?
Is he still at the pre-contemplation stage, or I'm when I was doing the workbook, I was slightly confused between these two, at just what ticks it over into the next stage.
Okay, so here we have, he's got a friend. The friend has given him a contact, and we don't know yet. He's undecided. So I would think he's probably he's contemplating, isn't it? But I'm not quite sure what ticks it over, but the guess is between pre and contemplation. But it's probably pre, because when he's at contemplation, he's actually considering, is this the right coach for me, or should I go and look at other coaches? Right?
Sure.
So it's probably still pre-contemplation.
So because he hasn't actually acknowledged that he needs the change yet, he might still be thinking, well, that's nice for some, but it doesn't apply to me or something.
That's right. Yeah, he's undecided. He doesn't know whether he should make a call or even, whether he needs it, right? So, and, when he gets to contemplation, we're going to say that that's the next level for him. So who or what may take him to the next level, where he will then investigate, well, I'll go to Lyle's person, but maybe someone else out there who can suit me better. So, Anu, what do you think is going to take him to the next level of contemplating that something needs to change?
We should start making some changes, I think. Maybe make that call where the contact details have been given.
So what kind of change would it take?
I'm not sure, actually.
Farah, have you got any thoughts about what kind of change it might take?
Maybe he needs to probably accept that a change is needed. So for that, maybe, his friend Lyle, I would suggest, because since he's already been coached, maybe, and he trusts his friend so much, maybe, he could question him a bit like, so if you do not go to that coach, or if you do not make that change, then what do you think will happen? And how will things unfold if that's not done? So maybe, get him to see, okay, there's nothing to lose in calling the coach anyway, because life is not getting better on its own.
That's right. So if he doesn't make the call, what's likely to happen? So that's really the kind of a stick approach. However, it's very real, because what might happen is, he might lose his job, for example. Okay.
Suzanne, it's Pam here now. I've actually dispatched a teenager and I've actually got a new microphone. So I just wanted to let you know that I was online again.
That's good. Would you like to have a comment on what's going to take him to the next level?
Yeah, well, I actually think that I actually totally agree that I think that actually talking to someone that he trusts, that has had a positive experience in the past with this sort of experience, will actually take him to the next level, because it sounds like that his friend has actually had that positive experience, and I think that's what he actually needs.
That's right. So it's either one or the other. It's, as Farah said, something is going to happen if he doesn't do it. Something bad. He's going to lose his job or lose his family or something. Whereas on the positive side, Lyle's been there. He knows it's okay, and it's not as scary perhaps as you might think. So what do you imagine, Pam, is his greatest fear?
I think it's probably, if he's already failed twice before, it's that he's going to actually fail again. And, once you've had positive or negative experiences in the past, especially twice in the way she's done it again, if he's going to be vulnerable and make himself vulnerable again, that's what will happen.
True, because if he's low in self-esteem, it could be, I'm going to become even less confident if I go and see someone and talk about it. Okay. Any other thoughts about what might be his greatest fear in going to see a coach?
I think it might, even just that that vulnerability, because he sort of demonstrated a lack of self-awareness so far, and so he you know, he might just not be ready to you know, begin that journey of becoming more self-aware. So the fear might just be that opening up and actually examining any faults that he might have.
And the fear that he might have to do something different, he might have to make some changes. So what could help him overcome that fear, do you think?
It might go back to demonstrating some success. If there's other managers in the team that he has respect for, that they can demonstrate that they've done something similar. There might be some beliefs to examine there as well, in terms of his own behaviours and his own achievements in the past. There might be some limiting beliefs to examine as well.
Okay, good on. And I was thinking more of perhaps Lyle could go with him for the first introduction to the coach, maybe, if that would help. Farah, do you think that would help?
Yeah, that probably would help, because he would have someone trusted with him, and at the moment he probably doesn't know if he can actually trust everyone else. He feels sort of cornered at the moment. So if he goes with someone who he trusts, then probably it'll be easier to start off that relationship with the coach, develop that trust. Yeah.
Okay, good. All right, so let's have a look at the next frame. Any other comments before we keep going? Okay. So here are 3 of the coaching techniques that we have in that unit to help this person to move forward. And it's a combination probably of the 3 of them. So what we typically do as a coach is start with motivational interviewing, where we express empathy. I know how you're feeling, Evan. We develop discrepancy about what he's doing now and what he wants in the future. And that's a really big step forward. If we can look at, what am I doing now and what do I need to do to get the next level of promotion? And am I doing what it takes? You know, I've been sitting at this level for 3 years. Is there something else I need to be doing to make myself more marketable compared with these younger guys coming through? If there's resistance, which there may be, particularly if he's by himself, he might resist opening up and being vulnerable with the coach. And so what we've talked about is just going back and establishing rapport. So that rapport, that trust in the relationship, which will be automatically there if Lyle goes with him. And that then leads to his own self-efficacy. So by the end of the first coaching session, he should be well and truly on the way to trusting the coach and doing everything that he possibly can. The second lot of techniques that we use is about imagery and visualization, creating the vision board from which he will then look at his future. And so his future could be bright or it could be bleak. And if he doesn't do anything about it, it's probably going to be bleak. So we need to start looking at what his future might be if he wants to continue to promote either in that company or another company. How does he get himself ready for that next level of promotion? Oops, I'm going to get rid of that one. And then, of course, as a coach, we lead the client into goal setting. And goal setting involves, you know, there is a choice. They don't have to goal set. But, of course, people who fail to plan usually plan to fail. If they don't set a goal, if they don't make it smart, if they don't make it specific, if they don't put some timelines on it, then they never know where they're going. They lack direction, and they never know when they're successful because there's no end point. They have to put in the effort and be persistent and have the right mindset to actually know that they will achieve, and that's where the self-efficacy comes in, that they can believe that they will achieve no matter what they're doing. Any comments about those 3 particular techniques before we keep on going? Okay, so let's look at the next step for Evan. He makes the call. Okay, so he made the call. He's reluctant to follow through, but takes some time off work to attend the appointment. He's not sure what a coach can do for him or say that he doesn't already know. he makes he makes to get that next promotion. He wants to get the next promotion, but he doesn't know how. So as a coach, what strategies would you use with Evan? Who am I going to ask here? Pamela, what strategies would you use with Evan?
I look at talking to him about his motivation, and actually, talking to him about, what the problems are, what consequences there would be, what risks there would be to actually try and actually get him to engage with some of that stuff. I think about, talking to him about what the value of the change would actually be to him, and what that would look like for him in the future.
And the benefit to him.
Yeah.
So we're talking about putting him in the front foot, putting him back in the driver's seat and commanding his future, right?
Yes.
Because at the moment his future seems out of control, right? Because the organisation is spinning around him and he's not going anywhere.
I think the key from a coach's point of view in that situation would be to be non-judgmental, because I think that would be, that would be very difficult for someone who's feeling as negative as what he is in that way as well, that you need to put it in a very non-judgmental, non-confrontational type of way.
Absolutely. That's exactly what we need to do with every situation. We don't judge the person. We might not agree with their behaviour, but they are totally, they get our unconditional positive regard. Thank you, Pamela. Anna, do you have any comments? Which techniques would you use?
Yeah, I agree. It seems to be some questions around his motivation. I would examine why, sort of ask the question why he does want that promotion, because he's sort of saying that he definitely wants it, but it might be that he's, putting in some of his own roadblocks, because maybe he doesn't understand why he wants it, rather than just being the next thing that he feels he should do. So looking at, why he's doing what he's doing, is that actually what he wants to be doing, or is it just he's just sort of heading along a path he set a very long time ago? Really looking at the why behind his want, I suppose.
Can I put a word of caution in about asking the why question? And the reason is because why could lead to all sorts of excuses or blame or denial that it's anything to do with me. It could be to do with somebody else. It can lead to externalisation of the problem. What I would recommend instead is asking the what and the how questions. So what's going on for you? Go ahead, Anna.
Sorry, I was just agreeing with what you're saying.
Yeah. So the why question pops up in our mind, but try and reframe it into a what. What is it that it's holding you back? What is it that you think you need, right? So you can always reframe the why question into a what or a how. If you have this, how is that going to help you, right? Because we don't want them to externalise it. We want them to take responsibility for the part that they play in where they are now, okay? And if with this chap, it might be that he hasn't bothered to attend any course trainings, he hasn't bothered to listen to the webinars that are provided on site for management training, he hasn't volunteered to set up in any opportunities or anything like that the organisation has. So if he hasn't put himself forward and done all those things, which is what you would discover when you talk with him about that and develop that discrepancy with him, it seems to me that you want to promote. What have you done in the last 3 years that would put you at front and centre in people's minds to be the next candidate for promotion? So that's a question rather than a why question. If you ask him, why do you think you haven't promoted? Then it could lead to, oh, well, my manager doesn't like me, or, I've been too busy, or whatever. Any other comments, Anna? Yeah?
So the question, why do you want the promotion, is sorry.
Try to reframe that.
Yeah.
Got that promotion. How would that be important to you?
Yeah. So what is it about the promotion that?
Yeah, what can it do
Yeah.
for you? What are the benefits for you if you got that promotion? Because
Yeah.
you're always
Okay.
imagining that he can get it, and he probably can. Perhaps if he put more time and effort and persistence into it and got into the right frame of mind. Right? So we're always imagining the possibility of a good future. Anu, any comments from you?
Yes, Susan. I had a question actually. Would it be relevant to ask about his self-efficacy, his sense of self-efficacy? Maybe in the past he's done something which he hasn't been terribly good at, and probably there are some limiting beliefs,
Yes.
due to which he's not going ahead with calling the coach and trying to make that change.
Yeah.
So would it be relevant in this situation, for example?
Absolutely, because in limiting beliefs was in the first unit, and it's so important. It basically is the cornerstone of all of our coaching. If a client has a limiting belief and you can't help them to change that into a positive belief, then really you're pushing uphill. You really have to help them change that belief. And if you can't help them change the belief, something external will come along, which is usually quite difficult for them, hard. It could be like as bad as losing their job or losing their family. It's what I call a Big Mack truck smashing in the face, and it's a tragedy in lots of cases. That's what caused lots of people to look at themselves and start to look at the discrepancies of how they're living their life and how they want it to be. So you want to stop that happening. You don't want that level of trauma for them. You want to be able to hold a mirror up to them with that limiting belief and say, is this how you want to really live your life? Do you want to believe that you're a no-gooder and you're never going to get promoted for the rest of your life? What is that going to do for yourself and your family if they think you're just a loser? And you wouldn't use it in those terms, but you know what I mean. So using that limiting, trying to discover the limiting belief is a really important step in that whole process. Thank you for bringing that up, Anu. Farah, do you have any comments on any techniques here?
No, not at the moment. Thank you.
Okay. All right, well, let's move on then. So he makes the call, and we've talked about the strategies. What would you be aiming to achieve with Evan? So Farah, we might start with you. What would you be aiming to achieve with Evan?
So I'm just going through this again because I took a break, like I told you earlier, so I haven't read this.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, I'm just reading that.
Ask somebody else.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me go back to Pamela. How about you?
I'd be actually getting him to actually try and move to the next stage of being, at least in preparation for actually being able to be committed to change, to be able to be willing to plan and to work through actually developing the goals and how he's actually going to do it. That would be my aim out of this session.
Yeah. Okay. Anyone else? Anna, what do you think? In the preparation?
Yeah, I think there's definitely there's still some trust issues for him. So a huge goal for the session would be to develop that rapport and that trust. Because if you try to go, if you're making goals too quickly for him, he's clearly struggling to get to that contemplation stage. So probably the trust building would be the main goal.
Okay. And Anu, how would you convince Evan that change is his only option?
I think I would probably use future pacing and ask him to go back to what his goals were when we started out, and what did the future look like if you were to go ahead and make the change. How appealing is it? I would then appeal to his sense of the vision that he's created for his future, and probably coach him towards heading that way, because if he were to act on what his plans were in order to move forward, that's the only way that he would be able to achieve the change that he wants to see in his life. And if he didn't go ahead, then situation would probably remain just as it is. So to enable him to see that difference.
Good. Thank you. Farah, any comments from you?
Yeah, so I agree with Anu on this. Basically, just bring back the vision board. Because the vision board can be really inspiring. It sort of lets you loose. You can just create the biggest, the most far-fetched vision for yourself, and then you can just narrow it down into goals and make it more achievable. So it excites you, I think, a vision board. So to give him that motivation, that excitement, to the drive to move forward, to make that change, I think I would use the vision board, revisit the vision board.
Good. Thank you. Thank you, Farah. Pamela, I'm going to come to you now and look at the rest of that question. How would you convince Evan that change is the only option? Is it his only option, and would you convince him?
Well, it's really not his only option, because he's the one that's in charge of his own destiny. If he actually chooses not to change, well, that's his choice as well. So if he actually decides that he doesn't want to deal with any of the feedback that that he's been given, that's his choice. He can do that. I think. I think that to achieve what he actually wants to achieve, obviously what he's been doing in the past isn't going to actually achieve that. So if that is what he wants, and just, building upon what's already been talked about, with that's what his vision is, he's going to need to actually do something different. So I would actually, go back to some of the experiences that he's had, and sort of try and actually get him to visualize the fact that if that is what he wants to do in the, going forward, hasn't worked for him in the past with what he's already done, that he's going to need to do something different.
So if you keep doing the same thing over and over again and expect a different outcome, that's the definition of insanity, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And you can lead a horse to water, but you cannot make him drink. So I'm going to go, thank you, Pamela, to Anna. Is it the job of the coach to convince somebody that they need to make changes?
No, I think the job of the coach is to help the person uncover what their motivations are and what their wants and needs are. But as Pamela just said, the choice is eventually theirs. He still has the option to not change and not get the promotion, and that's a genuine option if that's what he chooses to do. So especially someone like Evan, it seems that the more that you'd push, the more he'd push back or run the other way. So no, it's about helping them build that self-awareness and get the information they need to make that choice.
Yeah, and it's always their choice, and it's always the client-led agenda. So if they're not ready for it, they will push back, in which case you need to go back to building rapport. Or if they say, look, no, I don't want any more of this, then you need to leave the door open for them to come back at some stage if they wish to. Anything else from you, Anu?
No, Suzanne, I quite agree with what I've heard so far.
Yeah. We're not there to tell people what to do. It's their choice. It's always their choice. It's always the driver's seat, and it's always that client-led agenda. Farah, anything more from you?
Not that. It's good, yeah.
Yeah. All right, we're just moving. The last one I want to just share with you was there's a series of some surveys in the back there of that workbook about life and other things, conflict and whatever. And it was interesting, I was talking to one of our people doing the executive coaching course, and he said that the survey there about conflict he uses again and again with his clients, and they find that works brilliantly when you talk about the different ways. So I encourage you to use those surveys with your clients. Give us attribution, obviously, and don't spoil the party for us. But these are 4 little surveys that can help you to, as another tool in your coaching toolkit, help you to work with the client and just give them a little bit of, it's not a big test, it's just how about you take this home, or just come and do that with me now, or just sit for 5 minutes and I'm just going to go and make a cup of tea. And just do it quietly with them. It's probably better if they can do it with you when you're coaching with them rather than taking it away, because that way you can then debrief it at the same time. And you'll find that if you do a survey such as this one about stress, it leads on to all sorts of conversations about what's causing you stress and what are you doing about it, etc., etc. So they're there for you to use and use as you wish. So we're going to end there, and thank you very much for your participation. I'll just go one-on-one with you all and just see if you have any other comments or any other questions before we conclude. Farah, I'm going to start with you. Anything else for you tonight?
No, thank you. It was a very helpful webinar for sure. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And just for your information, I don't think I started recording till about 5 minutes into it. So when you each get a link to the recording, you'll find it doesn't start right on time. Sorry about that.
Okay, no worries.
Anu, for you, comments?
No, as this is the second webinar I've attended, and it's been really, really good.
Yes.
And for me, it's relevant because my role is that of a coach to a large extent. So thank you, Suzanne. Great joining me today.
You're welcome. I'll try and get started on time next time and record from the beginning for us. Anna, how about you? Any comments before we leave?
No, same as I know, it's my second webinar, and yeah, it's really great to be able to put the theory into some practical applications and be able to just discuss it. So yeah, thank you very much, everyone.
All right, look forward to meeting you at the Brisbane workshop. And Pamela?
Look, no other further comments from me either. This is my first webinar, so thank you very much. And I think it's actually really good hearing from other people when you're doing this sort of thing remotely. The discussion about, well, is this pre-contemplation or contemplation, that type of thing, is actually really valuable to have. So thank you very much, and I look forward to meeting you in May too.
Lovely. I look forward to it as well. I was just as a closing comment, I was in Sydney doing the workshop, and one of the ladies there said she was interested. She was in Unit 3 talking about NLP. She was interested in eye movements, and so we did a section and some exercises around that, which we'll do on the Brisbane workshop too. And she, at the end of it, she said, wow, she said, I've read the workbook, I've done the assessments, but it's not the same as when you just get face to face with someone and you can see what's happening. So she was wrapped, and I hope you will be too.
Yeah, it's teenagers are great to practice on. I've actually decided after doing that particular unit myself.
Oh, there you go.
Husbands not so much. They tend to actually click on to what you're doing, but teenagers not so much.
I'm glad you found it useful. All right then, we'll leave there for tonight, and I look forward to talking with you again next month on the 30th of April. Thanks very much. Bye for now.
Thanks, Suzanne. Bye.
Bye-bye.